What if the greatest tragedy in life isn't failure, but dying with a power inside you that was never used? Imagine reaching the end of your life and discovering that the person you became was only a small fraction of the person you could have been. Today, we're uncovering the hidden power that most people carry from birth to death without ever activating. Have you ever wondered why two people can live in the same world, face similar challenges, and yet end up with completely different lives? Why does one person seem to grow, evolve, and create a meaningful future while another remains trapped in the same patterns year after year? The answer often has nothing to do with intelligence, talent, or opportunity. It has to do with awareness. And this may be the most powerful ability most people never fully use. The truth is that many people spend their lives operating on autopilot. They wake up, follow routines, react to circumstances, repeat habits, and move through life without ever stopping to examine what is actually controlling their actions. They think they are making conscious choices, but many of those choices are simply unconscious patterns repeating themselves. Think about it. How many thoughts have passed through your mind today without you questioning them? How many emotions influenced your decisions without you noticing? How many habits shaped your day automatically? Most people never ask these questions, and that is exactly why awareness is such a rare power. Because awareness allows you to step outside the automatic program and observe it. It allows you to notice what is happening inside your mind before it becomes your reality. Without awareness, a person becomes controlled by impulses. They become controlled by fear. They become controlled by habits. They become controlled by the opinions of others, and often they never realize it. Imagine a ship crossing an ocean without a captain paying attention to the direction of the wheel. The ship continues moving. It may travel for days, weeks, or even years. But if nobody is consciously steering it, the destination becomes a matter of chance. Many people live exactly this way. They are moving. They are busy. They are occupied. But they are not consciously directing their lives. They are drifting. Awareness changes that. The moment you become aware of your thoughts, you gain the ability to choose which ones deserve your attention. The moment you become aware of your habits, you gain the power to change them. The moment you become aware of your fears, you stop allowing them to operate in the shadows. Because what remains unconscious controls you. What becomes conscious can be transformed. This is why awareness is the foundation of every meaningful change. No habit can be changed until it is noticed. No limiting belief can be challenged until it is recognized. No destructive pattern can be broken until it is understood. Awareness is the doorway through which all growth begins. Yet modern life often pulls people away from awareness. There is always another distraction, another notification, another source of entertainment, another reason to avoid looking inward. Many people know everything happening in the world around them, but very little about what is happening inside their own minds. They understand external events but remain strangers to themselves, and that is dangerous. Because the greatest battles of life are rarely fought outside. They are fought within. The battle between discipline and comfort. The battle between fear and courage. The battle between purpose and distraction. The battle between growth and stagnation. Awareness allows you to see these battles clearly. It helps you recognize when your mind is making excuses. It helps you notice when fear is disguising itself as logic. It helps you identify patterns that have been holding you back for years. And once you see them, something extraordinary happens. You stop becoming a victim of unconscious programming. You start becoming the author of your own story. This is why awareness is not simply a skill, it is a superpower, because it gives you access to the one thing most people never truly master, themselves. And when you begin mastering yourself, everything else begins changing as well. Your decisions improve, your relationships improve, your habits improve, your future improves. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you became conscious, enough to stop living by default and start living by design. And the moment you awaken to the thoughts, habits, and patterns silently directing your life is the moment you unlock the greatest hidden power most people carry to the grave without ever fully using: the power of conscious awareness. After becoming Aware of the hidden patterns shaping your life, the next power most people never fully use is the power of focused attention. This may sound simple at first, but do not underestimate it. Your attention is one of the most valuable assets you possess. In fact, it is more valuable than money, more valuable than talent, and more valuable than opportunity. Why? Because wherever your attention goes, your energy follows, and wherever your energy flows, results eventually appear. The problem is that most people never learn how to control their attention. Instead, they allow the world to control it for them. From the moment they wake up, their focus is pulled in 100 different directions. Notifications demand attention, social media demands attention, news headlines demand attention, entertainment demands attention, other people's opinions demand attention, and little by little, the most powerful force in their life is scattered. Imagine trying to start a fire with sunlight. If sunlight is spread across a large area, it provides warmth but very little power. But place a magnifying glass over that same sunlight, and suddenly the light becomes concentrated enough to ignite a flame. The light did not become stronger, it became focused. Human attention works the same way. Most people have enough intelligence, most people have enough potential, most people have enough ability. What they often lack is concentrated focus. Their minds are scattered across dozens of priorities, worries, distractions, and temporary pleasures. As a result, they remain busy but make very little progress. This is one of the greatest tragedies of modern life. People mistake activity for achievement. They spend entire days moving from one distraction to another and wonder why they feel stuck. But movement is not progress. Being busy is not the same as moving forward. Real progress begins when attention becomes intentional. Think about every extraordinary accomplishment in history, every invention, every masterpiece, every breakthrough, every great achievement. Behind all of them was sustained attention. Someone focused on an idea long enough to develop it. Someone concentrated on a vision long enough to bring it into reality. Someone refused to let distractions steal their energy. Because success rarely comes from occasional effort, it comes from consistent focus applied over time. This is why attention is so powerful. Whatever you consistently focus on begins expanding in your life. If you focus constantly on problems, problems appear larger. If you focus constantly on excuses, excuses become stronger. If you focus constantly on fears, fear gains power over your decisions. But if you focus on growth, opportunities begin appearing. If you focus on solutions, solutions become easier to find. If you focus on purpose, your actions start aligning with a meaningful direction. The world often looks different not because reality has changed, but because your focus has changed. And this is something many people never understand. Your attention is shaping your experience every single day. What you repeatedly think about influences what you notice. What you notice influences what you believe. What you believe influences how you act. And how you act determines the future you create. This means your attention is not just observing reality, it is helping build it. That is why protecting your focus is one of the most important responsibilities you have. Not everyone deserves access to your attention. Not every distraction deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind. The people who accomplish extraordinary things understand this instinctively. They guard their attention carefully. They choose what deserves their focus. They understand that every moment of attention is an investment, and like any investment, it either creates growth or creates loss. Most people spend their entire lives giving their attention away without realizing its value. They allow distractions to consume the very power that could transform their future. And that is why they never fully use one of the greatest gifts they possess. Because the moment you stop letting the world decide where your focus goes and begin directing your attention toward purpose, growth, and meaningful action, you unlock a power that most people carry their entire lives without ever realizing. The power of focused attention. As you begin to master your awareness and learn to direct your attention, you eventually encounter another power that separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. It is a power so important that entire futures are built upon it. Yet most people go through life without fully activating it. That power is self-belief. Now, when many people hear the phrase "believe in yourself," they immediately think of motivational quotes or empty encouragement. But self-belief is far deeper than positive thinking. Self-belief is the foundation upon which every achievement is built. Because before a person can create something in reality, they must first believe it is possible. Think about every major accomplishment in human history, every invention, every discovery, every business, every movement that changed the world. Before it became real, someone had to believe in a possibility that others could not yet see. That belief came first. Reality came later, and the same principle operates in your own life every single day. The truth is that most people are not defeated by a lack of talent. They are defeated by a lack of belief. They never even attempt what they are capable of because they have already convinced themselves it cannot be done. They reject themselves before the world ever gets a chance to. They surrender before the battle begins. And the most dangerous part is that many of these limiting beliefs do not feel like beliefs at all. They feel like facts. A person says, "I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm not confident. I've always been this way." And because these statements are repeated over and over, they begin feeling permanent. But what if they are not facts? What if they are simply stories? Stories created by past experiences. Stories reinforced by fear. Stories inherited from other people. Stories repeated so often that they became accepted as truth. The reality is that every human being carries enormous potential. But potential means nothing unless it is activated. And self-belief is what activates it. Imagine placing a powerful engine inside a vehicle. The engine has incredible capability. It can travel great distances. It can reach remarkable speeds. But if nobody starts the engine, none of that potential matters. Human potential works the same way. Self-belief is the ignition. Without it, people remain parked in the same place year after year, not because they lack ability, but because they never trust themselves enough to move forward. This is why belief changes everything. A person who believes growth is possible will continue learning. A person who believes improvement is possible will continue practicing. A person who believes success is possible will continue trying. And over time, that persistence creates results. Ironically, those results then strengthen the belief that started the process. This creates a powerful cycle. Belief creates action. Action creates progress. Progress creates confidence. Confidence strengthens belief, and a completely different life begins to emerge. The opposite is also true. Doubt creates hesitation. Hesitation creates missed opportunities. Missed opportunities create regret. Regret strengthens doubt. And the cycle continues. This is why self-belief is not merely a feeling. It is a force that influences behavior, and behavior shapes destiny. The most successful people in the world are not necessarily those with the greatest talent. Often they are simply the people who refuse to stop believing in their ability to grow, adapt, and improve. They understood something most people never fully realize. You do not need to have all the answers before you begin. You do not need certainty before taking action. You do not need perfection before moving forward. You only need enough belief to take the next step. Because every great achievement begins with a person who decides to trust their potential before there is evidence to prove it. And the moment you stop treating your limitations as permanent truths, start believing in your ability to grow beyond who you are today, and take action, despite uncertainty, is the moment you unlock a power that most people carry to the end of their lives without ever fully using: the extraordinary power of self-belief. As awareness grows, focus becomes stronger, and self-belief begins to develop. There is another power that separates dreamers from achievers. It is a power so simple that many people overlook it, yet it is responsible for nearly every meaningful accomplishment in human history. That power is deliberate action. The truth is that knowledge alone does not change lives. You can read every book on success. You can watch every motivational video. You can understand every strategy. You can know exactly what needs to be done. But if action never follows, nothing changes. And this is where most people get stuck. They spend years preparing for a future they never actually enter. They wait for confidence before taking action. They wait for certainty before making a move. They wait for the perfect moment before beginning. And while they are waiting, life continues moving forward without them. The reality is that action creates clarity, not the other way around. Most people believe they need clarity first. They think they need to know every step before taking the first one. But that is not how growth works. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain covered in fog. You cannot see the entire path to the top. You can only see the next few steps. If you refuse to move until the entire journey becomes visible, you will remain standing there forever. But if you take those first few steps, more of the path begins revealing itself. Then more. Then more. Progress creates visibility. Movement creates understanding. Action creates momentum. This is why deliberate action is so powerful. It transforms possibility into reality. Without action, potential remains trapped inside imagination. Without action, goals remain wishes. Without action, talent remains unused. Without action, dreams remain fantasies. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you could become, and yet many people fear it, not because action is difficult, but because action creates exposure. The moment you act, you risk failure. You risk criticism. You risk rejection. You risk making mistakes. And many people would rather protect their comfort than risk temporary discomfort. But here is what they fail to realize. The cost of inaction is often much greater than the cost of failure. Failure teaches. Failure strengthens. Failure develops wisdom. Failure provides feedback. But inaction provides nothing except regret. Years later, people rarely regret the risks they took. They regret the opportunities they ignored. They regret the dreams they postponed. They regret the actions they were too afraid to take, because deep down, they know they never gave themselves a chance. The most successful people understand something different. They do not wait to feel ready. They act before they feel ready. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite fear. And every time they act, they gain something valuable. Sometimes they gain success. Sometimes they gain experience, but they always gain growth. That is why action is such a powerful force. Every small action sends a message to your mind. It says, I am serious. It says, I am committed. It says, I am becoming the kind of person who follows through. And over time, those actions begin reshaping identity itself. A person who consistently acts becomes disciplined. A person who consistently acts becomes resilient. A person who consistently acts develops confidence, not because confidence appeared first, but because action created confidence. This is the secret most people never discover. Confidence is often the result of action, not the requirement for it. The future you want is not built through intention alone. It is built through repeated action. Day after day, step after step, choice after choice. Because greatness is rarely created in a single moment. It is created through thousands of small actions repeated consistently over time. And the moment you stop waiting for perfect conditions, stop allowing fear to delay your future, and begin taking deliberate action toward the life you want, is the moment you unlock a power that most people carry within them, but never fully use. The power to transform potential into reality through action. One of the greatest lies people unknowingly accept is the belief that who they are today is who they must remain forever. They look at their current identity and treat it as a permanent reality. They say, this is just the way I am. I've always been like this. I can't change. This is my personality. This is my fate. And without realizing it, they build invisible walls around their own potential. But one of the most extraordinary powers a human being possesses is the power to reinvent themselves. In fact, if you study the lives of remarkable people throughout history, you will notice something fascinating. Very few of them began as the person they eventually became. The confident leader was once insecure. The successful entrepreneur was once inexperienced. The great speaker was once afraid to speak. The disciplined individual was once controlled by bad habits. The person you admire today was often unrecognizable from the person they used to be. Why? Because they understood something most people never discover. Identity is not fixed. Identity is flexible. Identity can evolve. The problem is that many people become prisoners of their past. They allow old mistakes to define them. They allow past failures to become permanent labels. They allow previous versions of themselves to dictate what they believe is possible. Imagine driving a car while constantly staring into the rearview mirror. Eventually, you are going to crash. Yet this is exactly how many people live. They keep looking backward. They keep replaying old disappointments. They keep carrying outdated stories about who they are. And because of that, they never move fully into who they could become. The truth is that your past is a chapter. It is not the entire book. A mistake is an event. It is not an identity. Failure is an experience. It is not a life sentence. Every day you wake up with the ability to choose again, to think differently, to act differently, to become different. But transformation requires courage, because reinvention means letting go of familiar versions of yourself, and familiarity feels safe even when it is holding you back. People often remain trapped not because change is impossible, but because comfort is seductive. Even painful situations can become comfortable when they are familiar. The known feels safer than the unknown, and so people stay where they are, not because they want to, but because they fear what change might require. Yet every breakthrough begins with a decision. A decision that says, I am not limited to my past. I am not trapped by my current circumstances. I am capable of becoming more. That single decision can alter the course of an entire life, because the moment you believe change is possible, your behavior begins changing. You start making different choices. You build different habits. You develop different standards. You surround yourself with different influences. And gradually, a new identity begins emerging. This process does not happen overnight. Real transformation is often slow. It happens through repeated actions, repeated decisions, repeated commitments, day after day, month after month, year after year. But eventually something remarkable occurs. You wake up one day and realize you are no longer the person you used to be. The fears that once controlled you have weakened. The habits that once limited you have disappeared. The mindset that once held you back has evolved, and the future that once seemed impossible now feels attainable. This is why reinvention is such a powerful force, because it reminds us that human beings are works in progress, not finished products. You are not locked into a single version of yourself. You are not condemned to repeat the same story forever. You possess the ability to grow beyond your current identity, to rewrite old narratives, to create a new future. Most people never fully use this power. They spend their lives protecting who they have been, instead of becoming who they could be. And that is why so much potential remains hidden, because the greatest transformation is not changing your circumstances, it is changing yourself. And the moment you stop allowing your past to define your future, release the outdated identity that has been limiting your growth, and courageously step into the person you are capable of becoming, is the moment you unlock one of the most powerful abilities most people carry to the grave without ever fully using: the power to reinvent yourself. As we come to the final and perhaps most important power, we arrive at a truth that many people avoid thinking about. One day, every one of us will leave this world. Our time is limited, our opportunities are limited, our days are numbered, and when that final day arrives, the question will not be how much money we made, how many followers we had, or how many possessions we collected. The question will be much deeper. Did we use the gifts we were given? Did we become the person we were capable of becoming? Did our life leave a mark that mattered? Because the greatest power most people die without using is the power to create a meaningful legacy. Now, when people hear the word legacy, they often think of famous leaders, world-changing inventors, or historical figures whose names are remembered for centuries. But legacy is much bigger than fame. Legacy is influence. Legacy is impact. Legacy is the effect your life has on other lives. Every person leaves something behind. The question is whether that something is intentional or accidental. Think about it. A teacher may influence thousands of students. A parent may shape generations through the values they pass on. A friend may change someone's life through a single conversation. A leader may inspire people they never even meet. The ripple effect of a single life is often far greater than anyone realizes. Yet most people never fully embrace this power. They become so focused on surviving that they forget about contributing. They become so busy managing daily responsibilities that they never ask what kind of impact they are creating. Days become weeks, weeks become years, years become decades, and before they know it, their time is gone, not because they lacked potential, but because they never directed that potential toward something greater than themselves. The truth is that human beings are wired for meaning. We want our lives to matter. We want our efforts to count. We want to know that our existence made a difference. And that desire is not weakness. It is part of what makes us human. The problem is that many people postpone meaningful living. They tell themselves they will pursue their purpose later. They will make a difference later. They will help others later. They will become their best self later. But later is one of the most dangerous words in the world, because later often becomes never. Life does not wait. Time does not slow down. And every day that passes is a day that can never be recovered. This is why legacy begins now, not someday, not when circumstances are perfect, not when success finally arrives. Now. It begins with the choices you make today, the values you live by today, the people you encourage today, the example you set today. Every action is casting a vote for the legacy you are building. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: you do not have to change the entire world to leave a meaningful legacy. You only need to positively change the world of someone. A kind word, a helpful action, a courageous example, a lesson shared, a life uplifted. These things matter more than most people ever realize, because influence multiplies. What you give to one person can travel far beyond your own lifetime. This is how ordinary people create extraordinary legacies. Not through perfection, not through fame, but through consistent impact, through living intentionally, through using their gifts instead of burying them, through becoming the fullest expression of who they were meant to be. At the end of life, people rarely regret the risks they took in service of something meaningful. They regret the potential they never used, the dreams they never pursued, the contributions they never made, the lives they could have touched but didn't. And that is why this final power matters more than all the others. Because awareness, focus, self-belief, action, and reinvention all lead here. They lead to a life that matters, a life that creates impact, a life that leaves something valuable behind. And the moment you stop living only for yourself, start using your gifts to uplift others, and dedicate your life to creating meaning, growth, and positive influence is the moment you unlock the greatest power most people carry to the end of their lives without ever fully using. The power to leave a legacy that continues changing lives long after you are gone. The cemetery is filled with untold ideas, unrealized dreams, unused talents, and hidden potential. Don't let your greatest power remain buried inside you, because the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one is often not talent, luck, or opportunity. It's the decision to finally use the power you already possess.